Great here on the Flow FM Sports program and right across our regions to talk to the parents of a draftee. And Matthew Foster, his wife is Rihanna. They are the parents of Phoenix Foster, who is from the town of Wudinna. They now reside in the southern part of the Eyre Peninsula of South Australia. And Phoenix has been taken into the AFL draft, and really at an exciting point in his life. He comes in at pick number 52 and goes to Geelong. With me is Matt Foster. Matt, how are you?
Very good, thank you. It's been an exciting 24 hours.
Oh, what about the pick when his name came up? I was actually online watching each pick, and when it came, I let out a really big "You Beauty" as another lad from our country broadcast areas made it through. But I tell you, I think we should maybe paint a picture here, Matt, because Phoenix Foster's not the first boy from out of Wudinna to make it onto an AFL list. The Petty's famous family and Harry playing for Melbourne, and you're actually good friends with the family.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we spent a bit of time living in town, very close neighbours. The boys spent a lot of time with each other after school and weekends for a long time. So, yes, they get along very well. And, we've followed Harry's career very closely, Phoenix especially. He idolises Harry and, he's finally realising his dream as well, which is great.
He's, of course, gone down to town to play with Norwood and has been very good in their underage. And I noted when he played in the first of the under-18 games in South Australia, he represented. He was put into the ruck as a result of the first ruck dropping out. And they said that he played an absolute belter of a game that day. And the eyes of AFL drafters would have been on him from that moment.
Yeah, it's been a long build-up, probably a bit prior to that, but that was probably the breakout moment for him this year. And Bangers, the state coach, sort of rode him pretty hard to start with, but once he got himself established in that game, as Bangers said, he couldn't really drop him after that. He proved himself much quicker and much better than what they thought he had, so it was great.
No, it certainly was. Now, I should also point out for our wider listeners that Phoenix is not the first Foster to play in the AFL, and it's certainly not the first one for Geelong, because your brother and Phoenix's uncle, Daniel Foster, was selected at about 27, I think, if I remember, back in the 1999 draft and played a handful of games, I think about 17 or 18 games for Geelong back in that era.
That's correct. Yes, he had a short stint down there, and he's been a fair inspiration for Phoenix to want to achieve the highest level as well. So he's been very, very good to him in the junior levels at Wudinna. Spent a bit of time coaching and helping out with the underages, which has been really good for him. Your
brother Daniel Foster, I watched him play a grand final against the West Coast Hawks many years ago, and boy, he was a class act to watch, particularly when he got to 40 from goal, and a snap over the shoulder was absolute definite once he got his hands on the ball. Tell us about where Phoenix sort of begun with his career. Did he find it difficult being a young lad with not the big numbers that we see in other competitions?
He's always been pretty fortunate. He came through in a really good group of under-16 kids with Harry. Yeah, just a few injuries in the senior footy at the time, sort of just before he went away to boarding school. He got an opportunity to play some senior football at Wudinna, or Wudinna United. And that was a real turning point for him, realising that he can match it with the big boys and the big bodies. And from there, he progressed through the representative levels at EP level and 15s and 17s, and then off to school in Adelaide and playing for Emmanuel in the first 18 when he was in year 10 was a pretty big feather in his cap, and slowly but surely he built his way into it from there. And then, Nord sort of involved there in the under-16s during COVID. And then under-18s since then, had a really good season with under-18s this year. And he's made his way quietly, but he's been doing a lot of hard work along the way.
Yeah, you as a parent, you and Rihanna, a lot of travel coming from the Eyre Peninsula, and I note that with all those other boys that have come off the Eyre Peninsula over the years, like Jesse Stringer, and there's other names, the Tahini lad, and there was also Jacob Kennelly, and I think also we might have had one or two others along the way, like Corey Enright. There's a lot of travel for parents. How did you guys find the travel down to see him play, to watch him, to encourage him when he was in boarding school and so forth? How did that go for your family?
It's a challenge. It's a huge challenge for living there here on our peninsula. You don't get to see as much as you would like to, or you would normally, especially with other siblings as well. But we made the opportunities where we could to get there. Ryan and I are both fairly involved in community football and netball here, so it doesn't always work, but pretty lucky with technology now. We could stream a lot of the Sandful games live on the weekends, so that certainly made it easier to keep up with where he's at. But the cost of travel and accommodation is a significant handbrake for kids in the regions. I think it makes a big challenge of it.
Certainly does. Now, another pointer to think through there is that he's been over in town, he's gone over to school, he's made a lot of new friends over there, but does he still have a connection back with the Central Air and the club that he started his career at? Does he still have some friendships amongst that group?
Absolutely, yeah. Especially in the coaching department with or who used to coach him, the Tommy Seals of the world, and those guys, they all follow him very closely and keep up with where he's up to. And it's probably a bit of a different playing group there now with the second amalgamation. But no, he's still got plenty of mates there that he went to boarding school with also. And he still refers to himself as a Wudinna boy, not a Tumby Bay or a Cummins boy. He very much believes Wudinna was the home for his footy beginnings. So yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? How about now? What happens now that he's drafted? Has there been any direction from Geelong? I mean, did you know that they were interested? Did he have any connection with them beforehand that he might get picked up? And particularly given that Geelong are noted for picking up Eyre Peninsula boys, when they get around the 50 mark for their pick, they tend to go for one from out of the Eyre Peninsula. So did you think he was up and he might get picked by them?
Yeah, it's been a fairly long 6 months with a lot of communication from different clubs, but in the last sort of fortnight it had narrowed to a few clubs, sort of Hawthorn, Essendon and Geelong. We were quietly confident that he'd get a go. We didn't really have an idea of where, but yeah, Geelong certainly have a good history of making choices out this way, which was great. When his name was read out, he was pretty ecstatic, so it was an amazing thing to be involved in.
Were you all together when it happened?
Yes, in at the pub at Tumby Bay, and his grandparents are up from Port Lincoln, Rihanna's father and stepmum, and also just a few mates from the local boys here that were at boarding school with him, and a mate from the York Peninsula that had come over for a few days, and so we're all had tea at the pub, and we're watching very intently on the big screen there, and we kind of took over the whole lounge. His name read out. It got a bit raucous for quite a while there, but it was absolutely amazing to be a part of.